Okay, to start with this method, the first step is we're going to put on some sandstone. Sandstone texture is manufactured by Faux, and we're going to be rolling it on in this case, and it comes pretty thick. It's meant, you can trowel it, you can roll it, you can brush it, but the first thing I'm going to do, and what I've done here, is mixed about 20% water. So you can just take it out of the bucket into a new bucket. It gives you a little more room. Throw some water in there and then drill it, and you'll get this nice thinner consistency that you can pick up with a roller. So I'm just going to load up my tray, and then we'll start rolling out our finish. Okay, so I've got my sandstone in this tray. I'm using a 3/8 inch nap roller, and it takes a second to get the sandstone loaded on there, but it'll pick it up and then you're ready to go. Now, you know, this represents my wall. I've got it taped off, so in a real working environment, I just take a chip brush and, like paint, just paint in all my edges, and then I can start rolling. Sandstone, when you water it down, it's like a paint, but it's got like this kind of aggregate to it. And what's nice about it is it works as a really good basis for doing like kind of rustic organic trowel finishes, because that aggregate's going to prevent me from being able to trowel anything consistently over the wall. So it's a good place to start. Now when I roll this on, because I'm doing something organic, I want to keep all my tracks vertical. I don't want to go randomly around, because in nature a lot of things erode vertically. And I don't want to start in the same place every time, because this aggregate, where the first place the roller hits the wall, it's going to go on the thickest. So if I'm consistently hitting the same spot as I work across my space, I'm going to get like this heavy area and then light areas. So you want to randomly kind of hop around your wall surface, so you have thick and thin areas just nice and randomly around the wall. So we'll just cover the whole surface with one good coat of this. So you want full coverage. Okay, for rolling sandstone, I get about 180 square feet per gallon. Okay, so I've got my sandstone rolled over the surface, and it's dried overnight, and now that aggregate that's in the sandstone has kind of got all these high points, and you can hear it grabbing the glove. I need to knock a lot of that down before we apply our plaster coat. So to do that, I'm just going to take a trowel and just run it over the surface lightly, and it'll take all that high stuff off. So go ahead and do that to your entire surface. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is apply it's Faux Venetian Gem Plaster. The color's terracotta, and we're going to go ahead and kind of organically lay that in over our surface, over our sandstone. So we're going to leave some voids and some patches, and I'll show you like a few tricks to how I apply plaster in that manner, but just going to need a hawk and trowel. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to work vertically, not horizontally, because I want it to look like this thing is just eroded over time, you know. And a lot of things do that vertically in nature. So I'm just going to kind of tap in some plaster randomly. Overall, we're probably going to cover the sandstone about like 80%. You know, I want some voids just to give it some more texture, but for the most part, we're going to cover a lot of it. So I'm just tapping on my trowel, tapping it on the wall, kind of jumping around, and then every so often, just come in and I can knock it down. Just lightly going over the top of my trowel just to kind of smooth it out so I don't have to come back and do a whole bunch of sanding. Alright, so, and when you're doing it, you just kind of want to randomly go around your wall, just so you're not sticking in the same place and it stays nice and random. And another way, if you're more familiar with troweling, is you can just lay your blade at a nice angle, and see how the sandstone's just going to kind of randomly grab it on its own. Instead of tapping it in, you can kind of take advantage of that in some of your areas. Give you a nice kind of wholly organic look. Okay, so with this layer, with the terracotta BG, I was getting roughly about 100 square feet, 120 square feet a gallon. All right, for the next step in this process, we're going to use Faux Plaster by Faux, and I got it on a hawk and trowel. And we're just going to kind of randomly tap in the plaster and randomly trowel it to leave nice voids and a real rustic finish and texture. Okay, so I'm tapping it up on my hawk and trowel, and I can start by just randomly placing the plaster in, and then kind of going over the top and knocking it down. Alright, and that way it'll kind of automatically create these real random voids exposing the terracotta underneath. And then once I get it kind of laid in, I'm going to come back and kind of do this crosshatch texture to kind of create this really irregular, weird trowel movement. Just give it more interest. Next step on this one, I've got this Gothic cross stencil from Stencil Library, and I'm going to go ahead and throw this on. I'm just going to kind of go randomly, and I'm going to emboss it with the Faux plaster that we used from our last layer. So I'm just going to make sure this guy's straight up and down. Stick him there. And then I've got my Faux plaster and a putty knife. Throw some on here, and now I can just do my embossment. Oh, gonna lose it. Okay. Alright, so I embossed that guy on. All my texture, everything else is really rough, so this needs to be too. So I'm just going to kind of come back and just kind of mess up the texture a bit. And then we'll just pull this guy off. Alright, so we're just going to do a few of these randomly around. Okay, so now the embossings are dry, everything's dry, so we're going to get ready to add some color to this thing. First thing I'm going to do is just go and sand. Usually I'll sand my embossing pieces with a block, just because it's nice and flat, and I can really kind of smooth those down, and then I'll fly over the rest with just 220 grit paper. Okay, so next I've got some glazes I've mixed up, so I'm going to stain this thing. But the first thing I'm going to do, because I'm working over heavy texture, is just mist the whole surface with water. It's really going to help my glaze kind of slide over and get in all these little cracks and crevices. Okay, so for my first glaze, what I have is 8 ounces Golden Pro Seed Full Body Glazing Medium to 6 teaspoons of yellow ochre aqua color and 1 teaspoon of earth brown aqua color. And what I'm going to do is just load it on my roller and just kind of get it over probably like 60–70% of the surface. For my second glaze, I have 8 ounces of Golden Pro Seed Full Body Glazing Medium to 2 teaspoons of earth brown aqua color. And I'm just going to kind of put this on about 30 or 40% of the wall and kind of fill in some of these voids where I didn't put the yellow. Okay, so now I'm going to take, you can use a car wash brush, a wallpaper brush, a large chip brush, and just kind of spread my glaze around. What I'm doing is kind of blending some of these colors, and anywhere I have a white area, I just go over that and make it go away. I want 100% coverage with my color. Okay, so now I've got my color everywhere. I'm just going to take my shop towel, make a nice flat pad, and just kind of lightly start diffusing some of this brush strokes and creating highs and lows in my glaze. Okay, next I'm going to take my isopropyl alcohol and I'm just going to flick it in some areas. I'm not going crazy with my embedding, just trying to create a little more interest. You can see what this isopropyl is doing. It's creating these watermarks, just adding more interest to the finish. So I'm going to hit that and I'm going to let it cook for a little while and just kind of really bite into the glaze. Okay, now what I'm going to do is take my squirt bottle again with water and just in a few areas just create some light drips. Okay, so I've got my isopropyl and everywhere I created these water runs with the squirt bottle, I'm just going to hit it with the isopropyl and break up those water drips, make them a little more interesting. All right, okay. So now I've got my shop towel and my isopropyl is really baked in there. So now I'll just go back over again and really just soften my finish and diffuse. If I have any kind of brush strokes or identifying marks of how I applied my finish, I just want to kind of tap those to make them go away. So I'm really just softening and creating some color variation. Okay, so now that I'm done doing that, what I'm going to do is just take a sanding block again and just lightly go over the surface. And what it'll do is just kind of rip the glaze off of all my high points and especially like my embossings and just give it a little more interest. That concludes this method. We hope you've enjoyed it.
For information regarding the products used or alternative products and how they can be purchased, visit the resource section of the method website.
For any questions or comments regarding the method you've just watched, visit the online method support forum and locate the thread related to this video.